process of getting government contracts can be really difficult. Jeff Andelin can help you, and he'll tell you how on the Midwest Flourish. Greetings, I'm Rick Farrant, and I'm your host for the Midwest Flourish. Today we have with us Jeff Andelin, who is Northeast Indiana's APEX Accelerator counselor. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
You mentioned the other day to me that a lot of people haven't heard of the APEX Accelerator. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what it is, what it does, who oversees it, and also how it's funded?
Yeah, so APEX Accelerator program is a no-cost assistance program to help businesses that want to pursue government contracting, either through prime government contracting, direct with government, or subcontracting opportunities with those prime contractors, or even government-led innovation programs. So our main kind of mission is to offer those companies a pathway. I always tell my clients, I can't shortcut anything because there are no shortcuts in government. But what I can do is give them direction so they're not wasting their time. The one thing that people don't really realize with the government marketplace is just how big it is. You're talking about 400 plus federal agencies. You're talking about state agencies. You're talking about local county governments, city governments. So just the landscape in and of itself. And that's the program in general. So our overseers now is the Department of Defense. Previous to that, it was the Defense Logistics Agency. And in 2022, DOD kind of transitioned from DLA to DOD. And at that time, they named us APEX Accelerators. And here in Indiana, we're hosted by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. So we kind of serve two missions. One for DOD, increase the defense industrial base, and here for the state of Indiana to bring federal contracting dollars to Indiana.
Yeah, and I know from experience that government contracts can be really complex, really time-consuming to try and get the funding from the government. So I can see where that might be a big help. You know, when I heard that the Department of Defense was involved in this, that was really surprising to me. I don't think of the Department of Defense being involved in something like this. So why the heck are they?
Yeah. It's all about increasing the defense industrial base. So back in 1984, when
but the defense industrial base, people think about armies and that sort of thing. So
Correct.
What are we talking about when we talk about, you know, the defense industrial base?
Yeah, the defense industrial base is everything from what you talked about: Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Defense Logistics Agency, so spare parts for all the above. Just maintaining the industrial or the defense complex in and of itself, but even a step further than that, and all of the support agencies that go along with it. So not just direct manufacturing, direct service, but some of the innovative programs that go along to it. So, you know, new armors, new weapons, new almost anything, new communications, new cryptology, zero trust and cybersecurity type things. So anything that's involved in that is all encompassed in that DIB, defense industrial
But the
base.
contracts are more than just getting contracts for things that might be directly or tangentially related to defense per se, right?
Correct. So DIB, defense industrial base, that's what DOD is interested in. And in the wider market is what they call the GIB, the government industrial base. So that's all of the other tangential agencies beyond the Department of Defense. So it's really all encompassing. And DOD, obviously, they're specific to their mission, but it's also to help the rest of the government as well.
Yeah, and so I could be wrong about this, but is the idea there that a strong industrial base, whether it's specifically related, say, to the military or not, is beneficial to the security of the country. Am I wrong on making that connection?
No, you're very right on making that connection. And that's one of their overall goals, to strengthen that supply chain, to make sure that we have the industrial capacity to, whatever the threat landscape throws in front of us, we're able to either currently handle or quickly ramp up to handle.
Right, got it. How does this program, because frankly, there are a lot of different kinds of accelerator programs. There are small business centers, which in some cases, serve as business incubators. You might consider that a form of accelerator. How does what you do differ from those other programs, or does it differ at all?
It differs in the fact that we're very specific to one subsection of that. We work in cooperation with all of those other support mechanisms, small business development centers, the women business centers, the ecosystem navigators, the SBA.
Do you become a resource for them? In other words, people could refer
Correct.
somebody to you?
Yep.
Okay.
It happens quite a lot, actually.
Okay. Of all the touch points in the program, what would you say are the biggest challenges that businesses face in today's environment? When I say today's environment, tomorrow's literally could be entirely different. So, but given the fact that everything is pretty fluid, what do you see are some of the biggest challenges that they face, not only generally, but in terms of trying to secure government contracts as well?
Yeah, the biggest difficulty with securing government contracts is the government likes to do business with people they've done business with before. So that makes it a very difficult market to penetrate. There are ways to do it, and it's not so much different than commercial experience. I mean, it's networking. It's knowing who buys what it is you sell and how to market directly to them. The other thing with the government space is it's all about fair competition. So there are lots of rules and regulations that come along with it. When you talked about the length of those contracts, lots of those pages are the rules and regulations, the FAR clauses, the DFARS clauses, all of the things that make government contracting fair. The other touch point, or
I got to ask this question.
Sure.
I really do.
Yeah,
Wasn't planning on it.
that's all right.
So there's always an element of political in the government. We'd like to say there isn't. And you say it needs to be fair. In your experience, does it do a pretty good job of cutting out political favoritism in the contracting environment?
From what I've seen, yes. I'll give you an example. So Defense Logistics Agency, they have probably the most simplified way of bidding on contracts. It's all online. You go in, you fill out the information on cost, price, or price, lead time, delivery method, all that kind of stuff. And then you submit. And 74% of all of those opportunities are the computer makes the choice. So there's not even a human involved in that process.
Okay.
So when you're talking about the political leanings, that has more to do with policy rather than the actual procurement.
Right. And so there, you have not seen like there's any kind of political interference necessary, that everybody's pretty much going by the book when they get around to your level of government contracting, right?
Yeah. And if there are instances where it's not, there are avenues to protest. So you can always go to the Court of Federal Claims or GAO. There are avenues within the process to make sure that it is fair.
Right. And one thing that you mentioned, which was interesting to me, basically it deals with a lot of philanthropic organizations too, is, I mean, I've had philanthropic organizations tell me that that if they trust a person they've already dealt with or an organization, they're already inclined to support that organization if they've had a good experience, which kind of leads to the new organization that's trying to get funding, trying to prove itself. Do you feel as though, I don't want to use, maybe I should use the word fair, I don't know. Do you feel as though there are ways that a new organization can start to curry that trust. They may be behind the eight ball, right? If there's another organization that's been getting contracts for 8 years and the government loves them and they do a great job. I mean, is it more difficult for a new organization to get a government contract realistically?
Yes, just because of that lack of past performance. So, and when we talk past performance, it's not so much that one agency or one organization is better than the other, but past performance really shows the government that that company is going to be around in the future. It's not a fly by the seat of their night kind of organization. So it really demonstrates that they have what it takes to do the work. And the government, through their supplier risk performance system, they evaluate all of their contractors. So contracting officers can always go and see what kind of score that a business has. Do they deliver on time? Do they deliver what they say they're going to deliver? Are there ever any problems? So they can really evaluate those companies. And a company that doesn't have any past performance doesn't have that kind of experience with the government. So there's I don't want to say a lack of trust, but less trust.
Yeah, well, I mean, trust does take time. So that is part of the landscape.
Correct.
But once you get in the door, then obviously you want to develop that trust so that you can continue to get the funding. So businesses today, right, are buffeted by a lot of things, right? And I for myself noted down a few things. You got the shifts in the economy. Mm-hmm. Happening all the time, right? And you've got political ideologies and policies which can shift, how things are done. I mean, frankly, they just can. And you've got competitive forces. So in your job, because a lot of your job, it seems to me like it's like the X's and O's, right, of how do you get a government contract. In your job, do you do any kind of, for lack of a better term, counseling and shepherding people through the winds of change?
Difficult times. Yes. Yeah. It's in the title. We're counselors. So
that's what I thought. You're a counselor.
There is an element to that. And it's more explaining how the overall process works. Like change doesn't happen overnight on most occasions. It's something that it works through the process. The government moves pretty slow on things. So someone will call me and they'll read something in the paper and they'll be like, well, what's this mean for me? And I'm like, well, let me look at it first before I answer. And then once I read through it, I'm like, yeah, that might happen 6 years from now. It's nothing that they really need to concern themselves with now, but it's something that they should keep on their radar. And in that side, we're also kind of cheerleaders in what we do, making sure that we promote the successes that do happen, making sure that people realize that it is a process and that when they do have a success, even though it may be a small success in their eyes, it's a pretty big success because they've climbed that hill to that point, and we want to make sure we acknowledge those.
Yeah. How often does it happen where someone says, I read something in the paper or I heard this or whatever, and Jeff, what does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, occasionally. I'm not going to say it's an everyday occurrence, but most of the time it'll be like, hey, X program I heard is going away. What does that mean? And I'll be like, yeah, X program may go away, but Y program is going to come up and take its place in the future. Or the other thing with most landscapes they're cyclical. So if something's happening now, it's not going to happen 10 years from now. It's going to be completely different. And that's the other thing with the government process in and of itself. It's a long-term process. So companies that want a short turnaround on something, they want a quick buck on something, then the government marketplace really isn't for them because the government marketplace moves very slowly.
Well, and it's interesting you talk about the time thing because one of the issues with government contracts per se generally is they do have a finite beginning and a finite ending. Mm-hmm. And a lot of programs need to go, in order to be effective, need to go longer than that. So do most government contracts build in some kind of, I'm not going to say mandate, but expectation that something they have funded to either help start it or continue it for a while can eventually become self-sufficient? Does that come into play at all with government contracts?
Most of what we see in the government space will be base plus years. So you're going to have a base, maybe a 5-year award, and then maybe 5 one-year options after that. So overall, maybe a 10-year kind of landscape. I believe what you're kind of talking about is a path to kind of self-sustainment in that.
Well, it is. I mean, I've actually, I was in workforce development for 10 plus years, and I can say that at least one, possibly 2 government contracts I was involved in, it was a contract for 2 years.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. But you started something that needed to continue with no guarantee that the government was going to continue funding it.
Correct.
So maybe the person giving, or the organization or the government giving out the money didn't have the expectation, but certainly the organization had to make plans for, if we've started this thing, how are we going to continue it when the government funding ends?
Yeah, I compare that a lot to the government-led innovation space. So the government may fund projects in their development stage, may fund projects in their prototyping stage. But when it comes to, marketing that, then that money kind of drops off. So it's up to the company or the entity at that point to commercialize their product, to find other buyers other than the government. In some instances, the government is the only buyer. And in that case, that it does become a lot more difficult. The other aspect of it is not all funding is guaranteed. So contracts can be discontinued. They can be terminated for cause, terminated for convenience. So there's nothing really guaranteed in that space. So it does become a kind of an opportunity for other investment rather than just government.
Yeah. One thing that I always notice, and it's not just exclusive to government, but I think government is a little more particular about it, and that is measurements and outcomes, and that there is a real keen interest on metrics.
Correct.
Is part of your job, once you have gone out and helped this organization get through the maze of getting a contract, do you keep in contact with them when they get to the point of having to do measurement, or maybe they have some other questions about, that contract as it moves along, or do you just disappear?
No, we're involved in all aspects of the life cycle. So in the registration process, early in the beginning, through, identifying opportunities, to helping, make sure the proposals are up, they meet the requirements of the solicitations, to when they do win an award, walking them through that process of what do I do now, which is a fun conversation to have. Someone has spent a lot of work trying to get an award, they win an award, and then it's like, well, now what? So walking them through that after award process as well. And then continuing to stay in touch. The other thing to know about government is it changes. So we're here to keep our client base educated on those changes.
Yeah.
Making sure that they're prepared for the next round.
Yeah, and if I was going for a government contract, would I be able to send you, I would obviously have, the long form of everything that has to be filled out and done. Would I be able to send or have a conversation with you ahead of time for you to let me know whether that was going to float or not?
Yeah. So what we do is a proposal review. So that's an instance where someone will send me what they're planning on submitting. I will match it up to the solicitation, make sure that it crosses all the T's, dots all the I's, all the technical aspects are correct. The one thing that we don't provide any insight on is pricing. We're not the subject matter experts on their thing. I can't.
In other words, whether their pricing is going to be competitive.
Yeah,
I can't.
I can't recommend pricing.
What happens when you get 2 proposals for the same contract and you see that one is better than the other in your proposal review? Does that in any way impact how you go about doing the work, or you're just going to work with that one proposal that really isn't up to snuff, and you're not really going to compare it to the one
Yeah.
that was an all-star.
Yeah, I haven't run into that problem so far, but if I do, it's definitely just bringing the one up to the right level. It's not about comparison.
Well, here's an interesting question, especially in this environment. I noticed on your website, I hope I'm not wrong, that roughly 85% of the clients, this is what the website says, are either women-owned, minority-owned, or veteran-owned. So my question is that by design, or did that happen organically?
A bit of both, actually. So by design, when we say by design, the federal government has small business contracting goals. That 23% of all federal dollars they want to spend with small businesses. So, and of that 23%, it's broken down a little bit further with 5% to women-owned small businesses, 5% to veteran-owned small businesses, 5% to 8A businesses, and 3% to HUBZone businesses. So we're obviously inclined to help clients get certifications to go after those set-asides because there are more opportunities available to them if they do achieve those set-asides. And then when I look at it from the organic side, veterans, they're familiar with the military environment. When they get out of the military, when they start their business, that's an environment that they're familiar with, so they return to government a little bit. So that's the more organic side to it. So when I say a bit of both, that's kind of how.
Okay, you can elect not to answer this next question. Given the current environment, can you see that emphasis changing?
Not the 23%. That's would take an act of Congress. So a change in the law, which I mean that can occur. The law changes.
Okay, but barring Congress changing something, we're good for a while. Okay.
Yeah. And as far as the programs go, they're constantly evolving those programs. So the rules, not the rules, but kind of how they evaluate those companies that are going after certifications change and they evolve. So I don't see an overall change, but there will be differences.
Yeah. And of those three, the women-owned, the minority-owned, and the veterans, and the HubSpot is like a really small percentage out of that. So I'm not going to talk about that. Is there anyone that's predominant or where you've seen any increase, which would be an interesting trend to note, right?
Not so much. And it's interesting that you kind of gloss over the HUBZone. The HUBZone is the one goal that the government has a tough time meeting. So that's one where if there are any HUBZone businesses out there, I would like to talk to them because that is one where we're constantly trying to increase that number.
Okay, yeah, because I think the percentage out of there is something like 2%.
It is the smaller one, but that is the one that they have a hard time meeting, and they didn't meet it last year, so that's one that I'm constantly on the lookout for.
And just for clarification, there are APEX Accelerators in, I think you said every state but one. Was that? Yeah. Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
And what is the state that doesn't have it?
South Carolina does not have a program.
South Carolina doesn't have it. Do you know why South Carolina doesn't have one?
I don't. Other than so APEX programs, they don't have to be linked to state or local government. They can be linked with nonprofits or Native American tribal organizations. So I don't know.
You don't know. I don't know why I thought that you would know, but maybe you can, because we're getting close. We're not quite there. Maybe you can. Do you have a couple or at least one success story which would give people an idea of how you assisting an organization help them get a government contract, keep a government contract?
Yeah. I'll tell a story about a recent. I was actually me and the Northwest Counselor here in Indiana were actually grateful enough to be involved in the signing of the first mentor protege program agreement with NASA between L3 Harris here in Fort Wayne and a small business out of Huntertown called Parametric Machining. And that program is designed to elevate parametric machining to prime contractor status with NASA.
Okay, I'm sorry. What is parametric machining?
Parametric machining is a machine shop in Huntertown.
It's a machine shop.
Yeah, it's a machine shop.
What's the para part of it?
That's the name of their company, Parametric Machining.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yep. So the name of their company is Parametric Machining, and they, along with L3 Harris as their mentor, will elevate their quality system, elevate their inspection equipment, elevate their processes. We'll be involved with the government side of things, the contracting side, and in 36 months from now, they'll be able to pretty much be a prime contractor with NASA.
Cool. So you had a long history in medical technology, right?
Medical device manufacturing.
Medical device manufacturing. So this was kind of a switch for this. Down to 2 questions. Here's one of them. I got to tell you that procurement in my work history is my least favorite word in the dictionary. Hate that stuff. What gets you excited in the morning about what you do?
It's the learning something new every day. I never run out of things that I can learn with the government space. And that was kind of my evolution from manufacturing. The other thing here in Northeast Indiana, there's a lot of manufacturers. So just by leaving manufacturing myself, and joining the assistant side, I get to interact with a lot of manufacturers. So I'm never too far from that space, which is always a good thing as well.
Yeah. So I actually know where you work, and I know that it seems like you're not often, because we shared the same floor, where you're not often in the offices. Most of your time spent out on the road?
We do spend a fair amount on the road, but we are also attending symposiums, conferences.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble here. I know you
No.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. But yeah, we're interacting with our clients, and that's always a good thing. Sometimes it's better to meet people at their space to see what they're capable of, and to really help them, rein in their expectations in some things or increase their expectations in other things, because they have things that maybe they didn't see as marketable but that are marketable. So yeah, we like to visit.
So for businesses that are interested in your counseling services, what's the best way for them to reach you?
The best way is through our website. So that's inapex.org. You click on the region that you're in, and that'll take you directly to a counselor page. You can contact us directly from there. If anyone is listening to this from outside of Indiana, I'd like them to visit apexaccelerators.us. That's the national website, and that will allow them to connect with an Apex Accelerator in their local area.
Great. Thanks for stopping by, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Midwest Flourish podcast. Want to dig deeper or get involved? Head to marketingthemidwest.com to explore how we can work together to empower your community to flourish. Let's keep the Midwest momentum going and shape the future of our region together.